What's going on? Welcome to Unlocking Your Inner Strength. In these episodes, I share with you insights and inspirations that have come to me on my path in life, and hopefully they can be a welcome hand of guidance as you move along your journey. I teach because I'm passionate about my message. I teach because it helps me to learn more deeply. Thanks for sharing a few minutes of your time with me for this week's episode, and without further ado, here is this week's show. Hey everybody, it's Kyle with another episode 265 of Unlocking Your Inner Strength. Second episode of the week because I want to keep my streak alive. We're leaving for vacation tomorrow and I got to stay ahead of schedule. So I'll load this in the system today. I'm going to talk about training today. It's been a little while since I've openly talked about training and my philosophies on it. But I think it's important because that is my foundation, right? That's my initial passion. And it's been really great training some one-on-one clients the past couple of months, getting back in there, breaking out some of my old books for myself, my own training, and whatnot. And I'll preface it with this. I mean, you see a lot more stuff on social media now, and you see a lot of what I would call trainers, fake fitness experts. That's what I call them. Never been to a live seminar in their lives. Their education includes going to a university. They think that now they know training. I could tell you from when I went to the University of Delaware, great people there. I could count on one hand the things I learned there that I actually applied to training people and the training philosophy for neural strength as it was created throughout the years. And that goes for nutrition too. And I had some great professors, but it's all been self-learned. But you have a lot of these fake fitness experts. Their mindset is throw more junk at the people, make it as hard as you possibly can, or use this latest gadget when nothing is as good as the old stuff, the tried and true stuff, right? Nothing is as good as that. You can do all the stuff you want on a TRX thing or a TRX strap. You got to lift some weights and you got to be able to use your body. That's the bottom line when it comes down to it. So let me dive into it. Enough rambling about that. So let's start with aerobics. So I think it's very important that you understand aerobics means with oxygen. Anaerobic is without oxygen. Life is aerobic. Now, sometimes we've got to push really hard and do something that requires like a sprint, right? That's an anaerobic thing. And there's three levels of this I want to talk about because I've written articles, starting like 13 years ago, 14 years ago, that one at the time kind of went viral. It was about the aerobic fallacy. The misapplication of cardio, as we'll refer to it, even though there's much more to cardio, I'll explain in a second. Most people use it for fat loss. It is completely useless for fat loss. Completely. Just as all exercise is pretty much useless for fat loss. And studies show this. Like, this is not a controversial thing. But people buy into, I got to burn more calories, got to do this and that. It's a misapplication. Don't use it for fat loss. Use it because you enjoy it. Use it as a challenge. And if you're walking, use it for stress relief, right? So misapplication. The importance of, especially as we get older, the more efficient your aerobic energy system is, the more you can deliver life-sustaining oxygen, right? And the more you can get blood flow and good nutrients to all parts of the body. That's a very important part of strength training and aerobics is the blood flow. Now, cardiovascular, right? So strength training at a fast pace, which I'll go over my philosophy on pace in a couple minutes, is also it's all cardio. Cardio means anything that drives the cardiovascular system. So you can actually get more of a cardio workout through training head to toe. But I'm talking here about aerobics, right? So that's a different thing. You got to keep that in mind. Most people associate aerobics as the only way to do cardio. That's not true. But it is very important, right? It's important to get blood flow and to enhance, and that's going to enhance your training if you're really into hitting the weights. Now, as far as it applies to fat loss, if you're using it directly for fat loss, completely useless. completely useless. I can't say that enough. But aerobics, you got to think about how life is lived. Life is an aerobic activity. You're only training, if that, an hour a day. You have to think about, um, like when I'm sitting here doing this, when I have more work, I got to pack for vacation, we're leaving on. That's aerobic. Aerobics, when we look at it in that view, is where fat loss should happen. Fat loss, right? A lot of people say you're going to burn more when you're doing in this zone of aerobics. Again, completely misapplied science. When you got to work at X percent of your max heart rate to burn fat. This is aerobic. Me talking to you is aerobic. So what should fuel my fat loss, on everyday fat loss, when you are fasting, right? That's really the way you're going to lose fat, is oxygen, okay, and your body fat. That's how you're going to fuel your aerobic activity throughout the day. If you're constantly stuffing your face, forget it. It's not going to happen. But life is an aerobic activity. You need to live basically your main energy sources is oxygen and your body fat. Okay? So let me move on from aerobics. All this stuff, like you guys can think that there's new stuff out there. There's a little bit of new stuff, but it's all based in the same principles. The very first book that I read on strength training was when I ordered it at the end or the very beginning of my senior year of high school, mail order. So a lot of people probably, younger people don't even know what that is. But it was in a bodybuilding magazine. I sent out the order form. I can't wait to get it back. It was big beyond belief. I still have it upstairs. And it was by Leo Costa and Tom Platz. And I followed that system for years. That was the foundation. It was a full body thing based on Bulgarian split system and really good stuff. And that kind of continued to branch on throughout my college years. And then when I worked with Rutgers football strength and conditioning with Jay over there, who's now the strength coach there again with Coach Shiano, that was the summer. So I just graduated college, doing my internship there, and I was into the bodybuilding and into this full body training. But then I watched how he trained the athletes, the football players, and I started merging all this stuff and playing around with it. And over the course of the next couple of years, when I was training at the gym, people would come up and say, "Man, what are you doing? I've never seen anything like that. How are you training? Why are you going at such a pace that you're going at?" And that was really the root of how Newell Strength started. People would always approach me to write programs on training or nutrition. And I even had people at the time say, "Man, what is that? Is that CrossFit?" So no, what I developed was before CrossFit even existed. Okay, CrossFit's a sport, but they got the pace right. They got a lot of things right. They got a lot of things wrong, just like anything, right? And I'm not saying I know everything about training, but when you start getting a little bit up there in training years, I've been training more than half my life now. You kind of see you let people go down the path. Sometimes there's bells and whistles and all that, but eventually people figure out, okay, the basics. You always got to have the basics. So a lot of the stuff, been there, done that. Learned more complex stuff with training than I would ever care to share with people, because a lot of it is not applicable to the people that we train at Newell Strength. But even then, right, you want to get people stronger, right? So our philosophy at Newell Strength is movement, get people to move well first, get them stronger, and train with peripheral heart action. So that's head-to-toe training. Get the blood pumping, get the heart rate up while you're training with weights. It's strength and conditioning. It's not strength then conditioning, strength and conditioning. So that's my thought on that. Biofeedback. Especially, again, as you get older. I'll be 40 in a couple months here, and got a lot of training years in my body. I feel the best I've ever felt. The best I've ever felt. So when people start saying, "Oh, wait till you get older," people have been telling me that since I was 15 years old. Wait till you're 25. Wait till you're 35. Wait till you're 40. So you got to take an intelligent approach. Yes, your body's different. It can't necessarily do the same things you could do when you're 20. But you got to look at biofeedback. Are you completely wiped? Right? Like Fridays, I always have I only hit the weights pretty much 3 days a week now. Fridays, I do my long set of squats. And I know that it's going to wipe me out. Come noon, come an hour from now, I'm going to be shot as far as my energy. But what I do is very intensive, but it's more for my mind than anything. But I can't do it every day. There's no need to. So actually cycling back while I'm thinking of it, I actually have started taking up long distance running. Again, nothing to do with fat loss. It's a challenge for me. It's to kind of weed out any mental weakness I have as far as pushing myself. And I'm going to dabble in it and see if I want to start doing some races, potentially, you know, building up half marathon, maybe 50 miler. We'll see where it goes. I don't know, but you got to train for that. But what I found about that kind of backtracking, this is how you piece stuff together. When I'm running, I'm very aware. Okay, if my calf gets tight, that it's okay. I'm not flexing and planting off my foot. My quad might have been tight, and that leads me into my next thing. Is stretching is very important. I shunned it for a long time because I bought into your power's going to go down, all this stuff. Stretching is very, very important. Okay, mobility work and stretching, that should be part of your training. It's not sexy, but you feel better when you do it. You feel better. Um, I would venture to say if I've been really into stretching throughout my whole career, that I probably wouldn't have ruptured both patellar tendons. But my legs were so jacked up from bodybuilding, everything was kind of misaligned. Everything was tight, and my legs were huge at that point. And the dam's got to break. The dam's got to break when you're like that. So stretching is very important. Set aside time. Do that on the days you're not training potentially. Do it as a 5-minute break. Pick out some stretches, and you can do that. So I'll have Dana back on the other podcast soon, or maybe this podcast to talk more about stretching. That's one of her specialties. Volume. I believe in a lot of volume, right? You want to get a lot of blood flow, and that's my bodybuilding background. But you want to get the muscles pumped. You want to get the joints pumped, and I'll go back and forth. Sometimes I'll play around with bodybuilding training, so I hypertrophy, higher reps and whatnot. And I actually find that to be much easier on my joints. But a lot of volume, a lot of pace. I mean, you got to push the pace. One of the guys I was training recently said, "Man, should I be feeling like this in a workout?" I said, "Yeah, if you're training appropriately, in my opinion, you should be pushing it. As soon as you could talk, if you're training with the weights, you should be going again. Forget about resting 3-4 minutes between a set. Okay, unless that's a very specific goal, but even then, supplement that time with stretching, supplement it with some mobility work. You should be doing some. So you want that oxygen debt when you're training with the weights. So that's anaerobic. Remember I was talking about aerobics? That's anaerobic. So fast pace. I like to work against the clock a lot now these days. Even if I'm trying to do time under tension, which is volume, that's really, so if you want to get muscle to grow really, on average, your sets have to take between 40 and 70 seconds, which is way longer than most people take in a set. Most people are done within 15 seconds. Oh, I want to gain muscle. Well, how's your training? You got to ask, how's your training? How's your sleep? Those are the first two things when it comes to gaining muscle, right? Usually the intensity is not there, and I can tell you, I'm nowhere near as muscular as I once was from a visual perspective, but it's very hard to put on muscle. It is hard. It is not for the faint of heart. I can remember going in, I do the 8-minute sets of squats now, which oddly enough, not oddly enough, but it goes to my point, because I'm willing to experiment with stuff like that. My back developed more last year just doing the 8-minute set of squats than any time in my life. My back, not my legs, my back, just from holding that weight. So one long set. But I remember going in, we would do every Thursday night 25 sets of squats. Right, and then I'll turn back around, hit legs again that weekend, that Saturday, crush them again. But it was a ton of volume, right? A ton of volume. And realize that anybody can make you fatigued and tired. Know why you're doing what you're doing, right? If you run into any of these fake fitness experts, a lot of these trainers that can get these, first of all, I don't put any stock in certifications, right? Who certified the people that are certifying you? I let all mine expire. They're pretty much all useless as far as training goes. They're cool to have and whatnot. Again, that's not where the real learning takes place. But learn what is useful. Make it your own. Keep applying it. Keep adapting. Always experiment. Apply as soon as you learn. Right? As soon as I learn something, new stretch or whatever, I start practicing it right in the kitchen. Like you got to learn and then you apply. Learn and apply. And I was telling a buddy yesterday, I'll finish with this, at jiu-jitsu, one of the most overlooked aspects of training is you have to be mentally engaged. That's why it's easier to train when you have something to train for, something to work towards. But you can have a program that looks perfect on paper. Don't matter if you're not mentally engaged in it. And that comes into when should you switch up your workouts, right? Now, you're not there to entertain yourself, but you want to be mentally engaged. And novelty is the greatest aphrodisiac. So you got to remember that as you're training. Continue to learn, continue to try different things, and push yourself, right? Training is more for your brain than anything. I mean that in two ways. There are certain hormones that can only get to your brain through physical activity. There's certain hormones that can only cross that blood-brain barrier through physical movement. And you have to push yourself beyond your comfort level when you're training. I mean, otherwise, to me, what's the point, really? And you're not going to have a Hall of Fame workout every workout, but you should be going in knowing, okay, man, I got to be excited about this. I got to be a little bit nervous energy every week when I do those long sets of squats. It's a little bit nerve-wracking thinking about it the night before. If I let it enter my mind, but it's a good thing, right? It's like the first time you ever trained. So that's my philosophy these days on training. Hopefully you like that. If you did, hit the thumbs up, hit the share button. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, or you go to kylenewell.com and get on my email list over there. Get the new free fasting manual. It's kylenewell.com/manual. And you can check that out. As always, appreciate the support, guys. I will be back in a couple weeks. You wrote for today's episode. I appreciate you and your time, truly. I'm humbled and honored if you made it to the end of this episode. Don't forget, you can go to kylenewell.com for your free ebook written by yours truly on getting started with fasting, infused with 5 mind map principles never before seen. This is something I have not given out to anybody else that'll help you see the light when it comes to your fasting journey and creating better health, both physically and internally. Remember, it's all about the mind, body, and spirit. Until next week, peace.